In a distant valley, there was a beautiful village called Sunshine Village. Surrounded by mountains, the villagers lived a self-sufficient life, relying on fertile land and abundant water. In this village lived a kind old farmer, whose companion was a little dog named Whitey. Whitey was the village star from a young age, with pure white fur as flawless as the first snow of winter, and bright eyes that shone with the light of wisdom. Whitey's parents were also pets of the old farmer, and from them, Whitey learned many skills, not just herding sheep or guarding the house, but also how to make quick, smart decisions. The old farmer often told Whitey, "You have a brave heart, Whitey. You will be the guardian of this village." Whitey, confident in its abilities, would always wag its tail happily, knowing that it had an important mission, to protect the village and the people it loved. The village was surrounded by a dense forest, beautiful and mysterious. The forest had clear streams, ancient trees, and various animals. However, the villagers had been warned since childhood not to enter the forest carelessly, as a fierce wolf lived there. This wolf was called Shadow, for its fur was as dark as the night, and it moved like a shadow. No one had ever seen it clearly, but they knew it was a dangerous predator. The villagers feared Shadow, and every night as darkness fell, the village bells would ring out warnings to remind everyone to lock their doors and stay away from the forest. Over time, however, Shadow's appearances became less frequent, and the villagers' fear began to fade. But Whitey remained vigilant, patrolling the village every night to ensure everything was safe. One day, a young shepherd who lived on the edge of the village came to the village center with alarming news. "Last night, some of my sheep were stolen. I found wolf tracks on the edge of the forest. It must be Shadow." The news spread like wildfire, and the villagers were immediately gripped by fear. They suspected that Shadow might be planning a bigger attack. The villagers gathered in front of the old farmer's house, anxiously discussing how to deal with the threat. The old farmer reassured them, saying, "Don't worry, Whitey will help us through this crisis." Everyone nodded, knowing that Whitey's wisdom and bravery could overcome any challenge. As night fell, the village was enveloped in an atmosphere of unease. Whitey sat in front of the old farmer's door, ears pricked, eyes scanning the surroundings sharply. It knew that tonight would not be a peaceful one. As the night grew darker, Whitey heard a low growl coming from deep within the forest. Shadow was approaching. Without hesitation, Whitey raced towards the sound, running along the village's edge. Suddenly, it spotted a shadowy figure in the bushes. Shadow had arrived. Shadow stood there, its eyes gleaming with malice as it stared at Whitey. In a low voice, it said, "Little dog, do you really think you can stop me? This village will soon be mine." Whitey knew that instead of confronting Shadow directly, it should use its intelligence to outsmart the cunning enemy. So, Whitey decided to execute a bold plan. It pretended to be frightened, slowly backing away, trying to lure Shadow away from the village. Shadow, thinking Whitey was scared, smirked and followed closely, entering the forest. Whitey weaved through the forest with agility, knowing every inch of the land, giving it a great advantage. Shadow, thinking it had the upper hand, failed to notice that Whitey was leading it into a hidden trap, a thicket filled with old animal traps set by the farmer to catch large predators. As Whitey jumped over the traps, Shadow charged in without hesitation. Suddenly, Shadow's footing gave way, and it fell into a deep pit, the farmer's trap. Shadow struggled to climb out, but the pit's walls were too steep, and it couldn't escape. Whitey stood at the edge of the pit, calmly watching Shadow. "Shadow," it said, "you brought this upon yourself. The peace of this village cannot be disturbed, and I won't let you harm my friends and family." Shadow snarled from the pit, trying to intimidate Whitey, but Whitey was unmoved. It knew its mission to protect the village was complete, so it turned and left, leaving Shadow trapped. The villagers, hearing Whitey's barking, came out and, upon learning that Whitey had successfully captured Shadow, the whole village erupted in cheers. The old farmer and the villagers came to the forest's edge and saw Shadow trapped in the pit. The old farmer said, "Shadow, your cruelty has finally caught up with you. From now on, you will no longer threaten this village." They decided to drive Shadow away from the forest, ensuring it would never return. Shadow was driven away by the villagers, disappearing into the depths of the forest, never to be seen again. The village returned to its peaceful and tranquil state, and Whitey became the village's true hero. To thank Whitey for its brave actions, the villagers held a grand celebration, attended by both animals and humans in the village. At the celebration, the villagers erected a statue of Whitey in the village center, symbolizing wisdom, courage, and loyalty. From then on, every new day, the villagers would gather at the statue to pay homage to Whitey, grateful for the peace it brought. Whitey's fame grew far and wide, and its story spread to neighboring villages, becoming a legend in many hearts. Even as it aged, Whitey kept its young and brave heart, continuing to stand by the old farmer's side and protect the village. The animals in the village, inspired by Whitey, became more courageous and united. They knew that as long as Whitey was around, the village would be safe from any threat. Whenever new animals arrived, the old villagers would patiently tell them Whitey's story, encouraging them to be as brave and wise as Whitey when facing difficulties. Whitey's heroic deeds were passed down through generations, becoming a part of Sunshine Village's history. No matter how time changed, Whitey's spirit lived on in every villager, reminding them that courage and wisdom are the greatest gifts one can possess. Do you still like today's story? If you like, please remember to subscribe to this channel and click the like icon. You can receive notifications and hear the latest stories as soon as possible. Good night, my baby.